Hello, welcome everybody. How are you all today? This is Neil with Portal to Ascension. So happy to be here with you all. And I'm joined here with an amazing group of panelists. Let me just turn it over to gallery so all of you on YouTube can see us. And I'm excited for this event. And I want to welcome everybody in the Zoom room. Thank you for being here. And we're on New Realities and on YouTube on Portal to Ascension. Today's event, as you can see in the title, is called Healing Trauma and the Planetary Energy Shift. And the reason why this event is even in existence is because I did a poll on YouTube and on the email list about 4 months ago. And I said, out of all these panels, which one would you want to have the most? And the one that you guys selected was this one right here, Healing Trauma and a Planetary Energy Shift. And for me personally, it's been a lifelong journey of trying to heal from different things that have happened to me when I was a child. Let alone the past life experiences that we're bringing peace and harmony to now in this reality. But definitely many things occurred to me as I was a child that on one level affected my ability to be present, affected my empowerment and my self-worth. But on another level also was the catalyst for me to create Portal to Ascension in the first place. So it's a huge trip, if you will, about how these traumas, these experiences are really could be tools for us to have the contrast we need to become what we really want to become and to become the masters of these traumas. And maybe even the terminology trauma has a bad connotation to it. So we're here with some amazing individuals just to have this discussion. And I feel, this one, compared to many other panels that are more curated, this one was just kind of an impromptu desire to actually put this together. One, from the fact that I'm still in the process of healing. And then two, because you guys really felt that it was important to talk about it too. And now how does this tie into the planetary energy shift, right? Because for me, it's really about bringing healing and harmony and wholeness to ourselves. And planetary energy shift cannot occur unless we do that, So what does the inner work have to do with the collective good? So that's the kind of tie-in that we got here today. And, as most always, not always, but almost always, I have my best friend here by my side, Joan of Angels, that really has come on board on full throttle with Portal to Ascension, helping on so many different levels. I literally texted her 40 minutes ago and said, do you want to be on this panel? And almost like always, she says yes. So I wanted to say hi to Joan, bring you on, Joan, and thank you for being here. And maybe you can, just say hi to everybody, but then definitely just speak about this topic before we bring it over to our guests.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm really happy to see everyone. The energies are so high. We are in the middle of such a planetary shift. And when we say planetary, we mean personal / community / planetary / galactic. Everything is changing and far more rapidly. And I will say this before I don't know if I'm supposed to talk much longer, but I'm really happy to be here. That's all and we're in the best of times, because what you said, taking trauma and turning it around. Well, guess what? We've been taking like the last 2 years and going through grand initiation and really turning it around to turn up our light. So I think this is the best of times now, even though it looks like it's couched in chaos.
And definitely just to add to that real quick before we get to every guest here, and I'm not going to do their official bios because we're going to freestyle it a little bit, but I want, Tarek, Lauren, Shofar, all of you guys to introduce yourselves and just tell people, your passion, what you do in life and what you're dedicated to. But it's definitely right now, one of the things that I like to say often is that when I see the chaos, I see opportunity. And right now there's a lot of systems, old systems that are collapsing. And the fact is that we will still be here when these systems collapse. And it's our attachment to these systems that create the suffering, right? So part of that also creates a trauma. And we have gone for a collective dark night of the soul, probably for a long, long time, but definitely over the last few years, where we're reflecting on what's really important. And what's important, I feel, is connection. And what's important is our relationship to ourselves, right? And loving ourselves so we can truly love and appreciate everybody around us. And that's what we're doing here at Portal to Ascension. So again, I'm going to move it back to the gallery view here. And we're going to start with you, Tarek, and then Lauren and Shofar. And first I want to say that I brought these individuals on because not only do I really appreciate and love them and had experience of them either through like their own modalities or just conversationally, that I just feel that these individuals here are really not just beyond pioneering, but are really dedicated to assisting people with practical steps to make some real change in their life so they can be fully empowered. So I'm excited for you, if you have not seen them before, to be introducing them to you. And definitely going to be on Portal to Ascension quite a lot more. So you'll be seeing a lot of them. So let's start with you, Tarek.
Thank you so much, Neil. I salute you, brother, and I salute everyone here on the call co-creating this amazing experience. We just happen to be talking, but every single one of us has got a paint, a brush in hand, and we're all co-creating this beautiful canvas. So when we're done, we can all look at it and go, damn, that was beautiful. So name is Tarek Bliss Bibi. I just put in the bliss there in the middle to raise the frequencies of my being. I was born in Jordan, so full Middle Eastern blood. And that goes, all the way back to all the interesting ancient history, what beings were here and who Baalbek, my dad's from Lebanon, and like who put, it just feels like there's a lot of trauma in that lineage. And I feel like I just feel like I came to help alchemize that. And I think I choose every lifetime, I just choose whoever's getting screwed over the most. I'm like, I'll go into that race. And so that spiritual warrior is a big archetype. A wizard is a big archetype that I embody. And yeah, just like Neil, when Neil was on my podcast and he was sharing his story, like so many similarities of just growing up with that toxic masculine father who did his best. And I love my father now, we're super close, but just when I was a kid, I was so sensitive, like my moon's in Pisces. So it's like, even my mom's like, you're way too sensitive. So like just feeling things like as if people hated me and they just took out all their frustrations on me. And I was like, oh, I don't want to be here anymore. And I just checked out in school. I was daydreaming a lot and just feeling like the lowest of the low, like getting bullied a lot. School was basically telling me I was a piece of crap. And just very low self-esteem and very confused. Why am I here? Why do you send me here, God? Like, are you punishing me? What's going on? I definitely felt a resonance with anything to do with like prophets. That's the only thing that stuck out for me in school, is like helping humanity heal or remember is the word that I like, who we are and that connection with the divine. Even as a kid, I was like, that's my path. And then the rest of the stuff in school was very traumatizing. I survived school, I would say, survived trauma, but now we're thriving with trauma. And I went through a downward spiral, and then I created a modality called infinity healing that's been voted, like a lot of high level healers go to it, get fast results really, really quick. So I got the download to do that, and it's now being taught everywhere, helping people heal core traumas in a very, like in a few seconds, I could just pinpoint your big core trauma and hold space for you to clear it yourself. So I'm very driven by that, and big heart, big energy, wanting to help, and any way I can. How can I help is like my default question. How can I be of service is my morning prayer. And also a conscious rap artist like Neil as well, with the words, spoken words, using words to help us raise our awareness and consciousness. And moved to Canada, forgave my father for all the hardships, and that changed my life. So ever since then, I've been blessing it forward by sharing the forgiveness process. That's the heart of the work that I do. And then also helping spiritual, mostly women healers, come out of the closet and thrive, hit six figures and beyond in their gifts, because I really believe the universe is using me to bridge spirituality and financial abundance. Even though I grew up with very poverty mindset and scarcity mindset. And if I can do it being like the kid in the class that couldn't follow with anything, then my motto is you can do way better than what I've done. And now my big mission is finding land and community similar to, I think, what you shared, Neil. So yeah, just calling in the soul family so we can actually make it a reality and not just in the 5D visual, like actually find the land. Where does Mother Earth want us to be, and plant our metaphoric roots there and start building. It's time. So reach out, let's make it happen. I'm here in Mexico, but we're considering Costa Rica, and we get a lot of signs for Australia, but my mind's like, what? So anyways, blessings. Thank you guys.
Thank you for sharing, brother. As you speaking here, I remember all the synchronicities we had, but you just mentioned a bunch more of what's going on right now in life, and we're still right there right next to each other. So, yeah, dude, it's a trip, and
I
I
can't
feel
wait
we're
to
gonna
see
do a
you
lot
tomorrow,
together.
brother.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So as we're talking here, we're having some people ask in the chats to your website. So after you do your introduction, just speak about your journey, if you could just share real quick, brother, where people can find you.
Yeah, 5 rap albums with healing frequencies in them. I go by Indigo Prophet. You can find it on all streaming platforms. Lots of content creating under Tarek Bibi. And if you just go to tarekbibi.com, and I'll put it in the chat, that'll link to all my socials. And there's tons of, I'm just pumping so much content that's going to help people thrive financially, spiritually, all levels. Freedom and empowerment for all beings is my motto.
Thank you, brother.
You're welcome.
Yeah, post right there.
Let's connect, soul fam.
I'm just blown away how you turned your childhood trauma into this work that's really healing the world, raising the vibration, bringing together consciousness, financial abundance. I was just listening to that thread, that theme.
Yeah, and what I've felt for quite some time is that we either have the opportunity to become the victims of our traumas or the masters of our traumas, and then we can teach people how to transcend those. And as I'm having this conversation right now, and you just started talking, Tarek, all these questions are now coming. I have different directions that we can go really into this all. So thank you for sharing, brother. And Lauren, let's move it over to you. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Neil. It's such a pleasure to talk with all of you. Joan and Shofar and Tarek on trauma. And so I'm a hypnotherapist that helps just spiritual romantic souls release pain, shame, and guilt from childhood trauma and sexual trauma to really empower playful love from within first. And I've been doing this work for over 2 years now. And what started awakening me on the journey was in 2020, we were all purging a lot of shadows. And I started to have dreams of underground worlds and children being locked in cages. And I really didn't understand why this was and what this represented to me as I was moving through hypnotherapy certification and accreditation. And then women started coming to me with sexual trauma and shame as the primary need to heal anxiety and physical pain in the body, because we store physical pain from trauma, whether or not we even know it happened or we experienced it, which repression, disassociation is a big part of trauma, disassociating from our bodies, not feeling safe in the body. And so as I moved through and worked more with hypnotherapy and began to understand more about the Kabbalah and our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual bodies, and how we not only need to bring awareness to what has happened, but transmute that energy through really being seen and heard and understood and felt and believed in not only this life, but past lives we've experienced in trauma in our cellular memory. And many past lives that we've experienced may have this type of same karmic pattern in this life that we're experiencing. And so as we become aware through it, I do find that past life regression is a really beautiful modality within hypnotherapy to come face to face with death. And death is a big part of the awakening process. It's a traumatic experience, but it can be seen with compassion and with love and with safety. Feeling safe. Feeling safe is one of the biggest things that where we start to master our own energy with anyone and anything, following our intuition, knowing who is for us, who's our vibe, and who we don't really need to have included in our day-to-day life or our weekly life. But really pulling in those soul family connections is really what I'm passionate about as well. Definitely getting land, having community through that. I love to sing, absolutely love to soul sing and sing to the trees every day. I'm always in nature, singing to the trees and the land, sending grid work energy to the planet. And just building community, working together. Everyone has so many unique gifts in this world to share, and we're all psychic as we devote ourselves to spirit and a higher power and love, pure love, innocent love, as the children around me are laughing. So thank you again for having me on.
Thank you so much for sharing, Lauren. And a lot of what you're saying here is definitely the traumas that you really work on and assist people in transcending are literally the traumas that I experienced, growing up, and having the whole concept of feeling safe. That's something that I've been working on, and getting my nervous system to calm down rather than being a fight or flight and always ready to basically respond that something might happen, because basically it gets locked up into your DNA, in your cellular memory. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for everything you do. And if you could just let everybody know as well where they can find out more about you.
Hypnolutiontherapy.com or Hypnolution on all of the channels.
If you can put it in the chat, that'd be great.
Yeah, you guys may have seen Lauren at the Heal the Divide conference. So we also have some information from that she shared there as well. And our next guest, Shofar, who's also was the first appearance was at Heal the Divide conference. Had the opportunity to meet and connect with him in San Diego. Also another amazing brother doing incredible work. I'm excited for you guys to get to know him a little more here. So welcome, brother. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, everybody else on the panel, and all of those through time and space who are tuning in. Yeah, it's definitely, I just love the names, Heal the Divide and Portal to Ascension. I just even the power around the names and stuff definitely just resonate. So myself, as Neil said, my name is Shofar, and I like to say that I'm a breath poet. So what I mean by that is that I help people practice breath poetry. I help them to become aware that their exhale and inhale rhyme, and we call that rhyme life. In the ancient tongue of the Chinese, they call that qigong, breath work, but I like to call it also breath poetry. And then me and my lady, we work with SEX, Sensual Emotional Exchange. So we work with couples, and then my lady Kirti, she also works with just the single ladies, and I work with the single men. And SEX, Sensual Emotional Exchange, is very important to this planet, because that's how we all got here in one way or the other. So it's literally the roots that we come from. And I believe that, and one of my mission statements is to help evolve and expand. And I purposely picked those words. I didn't say change, because that would denote that maybe there's something wrong with what we've been doing. And that's fine. We don't know what we don't know, right? But in order to evolve and expand how we think and feel about SEX. And there's been, that has been dragged through the ideas about it and what it is, has been totally misunderstood. And, when we come back to the understanding that the sensual is the physical apparatus and the different things that go along with that, the emotional component is the part that's really left out on this planet right now. It leaves many womb beings, especially, or all of our feminine. So not just females, but all of our feminine wants that emotional connection or play in some way. And that can look different, all the time. And then the X factor is the consciousness with the breath, and the breath with the consciousness. So sensual emotional exchange. And I really do believe it's a grand remembrance that can help change the world.
Beautiful. Thank you, brother. And I did attend one of Shofar's online events, and just that in itself was so powerful, giving us the opportunity to be vulnerable. And the thing that I'm hearing here, a lot different from Lauren and Shofar, you guys mentioned, was about really being in the body, the disassociation and being present with the body, feeling the breath and connecting. And as I've shared, I've been I left my body at a really young age, and it's been a whole process of reclaiming the fragments and just coming back into myself. And just feeling comfortable in my own skin. And trauma has a tendency to do that, to make you want to leave and escape, and create even escapism in your own life, where you're trying to avoid situations, avoid things. And then the first step is self-awareness, right? Being aware that it's happening, not judging yourself for that, and then doing the tools and the modalities that could really assist you in reclaiming yourself. So we're going to get into some of this conversation here. But Joan, I know you only here for 30 more minutes, so I kind of want to hand it over to you, Joan, and see what you want to share based on what just happened here, and maybe ask the first question. You want to do that? You're muted though.
Absolutely. So I've just been really delighting in connecting with everyone, and really in understanding how trauma can be healed in many ways. It can be healed physically, in doing different kinds of tools and techniques. It could be healed spiritually in meditations and in guidance and in sacred sound and in, it's sort of bathing in a sea of love. But it also can be healed by utilizing it to see the big picture of where the trauma really fits into your life. And, I have a background, guys. I have a master's in counseling. I'm a doctor of chiropractic. I'm an intuitive. I'm a guide. And I've worked with a lot of people to go through this, really looking at the bigger picture. And if you could sit on the mountaintop with me, where I love to take my clients and look at what's going on, you go, oh, well, my dad beat the you-know-what out of me because I needed to learn how to love myself no matter what, and how to be able to get out of my body and have compassion for that who was me, and have compassion for that who was my dad. At the same time, understanding he was trapped in the same wheel that I am. So I want to take it even higher, because we're here for the healing of the planet. We're here for the healing of our souls and the healing of the planet. So it's personal and planetary, and we can only do that by seeing the big picture. And so even the big picture, that our planet has been a replay of our personal lives, this trauma that we have been feeling when we have difficult childhoods, say, or difficult adulthoods. The planet itself was also taken over in those ways. And that which we experienced was the planet itself being plundered by parasitic beings that really did not have this agenda that we have, this higher vibration that we had. So we were attacked both from within and from without understanding the big picture. And so the big picture is, yes, we have gone through trauma. The planet has gone through trauma. The galaxy has gone through trauma. We're part of that, but it's been part of our refining, so that when we come into this new era, this new solar flare, the new galactic alignment, we'll actually be able to ascend, because we will have learned to hold energy, even from the dark to the light, if that makes sense. We've learned to forgive those who tortured us, because we know that if we don't forgive them, we're going to be tortured for eternity. So we use this, and I hear that each of you did, and in going from past lives to the present life, and understanding our ancestral connection, and healing, by the way, our sexuality, which is the root of everything. And if we don't recover our sexuality, we're not even going to recover our humanity and our population. We are vibratory beings, and sexology leads us to the higher realms as well. And infinity, I just love listening to all of you, like how you turned your traumas into these tools for mastery. So that's my first download on that. And it's global, it's planetary. So when I do healing, like Miracle Mondays, we raise the frequency of miracles, but we also sometimes pull out the globe and we send angelic healing around the world. Angelic frequencies of celestial light and love, so that the entire planet can be restored and renewed. And all of you as star seeds, by the way, came in with that mission of, okay, get over your trauma quick. Don't carry it with you. That's lesson 1. Look at what you came in to do, those skills, and master them. And then number 3, let's see how we can upgrade planet Earth so we can ascend together as rapidly into the 5th and higher dimensions, and make it easy for the rest of them to follow us in. Kind of like that, So that's my first, initial run on it. Any comments?
Yeah, I'll just make a comment, and then we'll just pass around the panel here. In order to ascend into this new octave of existence, we can't take our baggage with us. So what's happening right now, it used to take, for thousands of years, most people didn't leave more than like a few miles from their own home. We have such a globalized community right now. We have so much stimuli all the time. All the stimuli is doing is giving us the reflection constantly in order to be able to transcend experiences. We're getting so many experiences, and we have so many opportunities. What may have taken lifetimes to come around for the same experience, we're getting like 20 times in one day. And the question is, are you hearing the call? Are you transcending it? And that's why there's so much going on, why there's so much stimuli. is that we're just having the opportunity to transcend and purge these experiences. And when we collectively get to a certain point, we're able to usher in this new reality, this new world. But really, we need to do that inner work, which is why when people say, what does UFOs have to do with consciousness? What does all this stuff have to do with it? Well, we can be in this world where we have open contact with a collective galactic community, where we have, I don't know, maybe we'll see unicorns in the next dimension, who knows? Well, we can't be in this reality where we see these unicorns unless we do this inner work, So that's my take on it. Let's start with you, Tarek. Yeah.
I'm just driven to do more inner work, Neil, so I can see those damn unicorns.
Don't say damn though. Those
Sorry. Yes, those beloved, beautiful.
It's the rapper in him.
It's the rapper in me, totally. I was just remembering you were interviewed, Neil, on our brother's podcast, Forbidden Knowledge News, and I love how he shares when he had his first experience with light beings, how the big takeaway from that connection was, like here we are, like in my mind, I'm projecting like, here's how free energy, this is a higher dimension, like all this like complicated stuff. And they were like, heal your inner child. So simple, right? And it just helped me just re-ground how important that work is. And I've got my inner child here with me, and I highly recommend, like his nickname's Tarek, which is like a Lebanese cute way of calling Tarek. And I just like keep him around. Like I'm like, you're coming with me on the call today. And it's just like a cute way of remembering that part of us and bringing it out. Like, how often do we have play dates with our inner child?
Is that you?
That was me when I was a kid. Yeah, I had hair.
That is brilliant. Oh my God, what an amazing tool for people. Get your baby picture, start carrying it around. How could you not love that little baby? Mwah, mwah, mwah. And kiss
Exactly.
it, right? Oh my God, that's the tool for self-love right there.
Joan, I've got it on my altar like a guru. Like it's like it's my guru, because in the Bible, how they say you can't enter the kingdom of heaven unless you're in a childlike state. And that can, like how you said, Neil, we can't go into those, we can't take that baggage, or whoever said it, we can't take that baggage with us to this higher state of being, not like a higher dimension where we escape this reality, but it's a higher state of being that, we can witness dogs, cats, babies, like butterflies, unicorns, they're all functioning on those realms. So like in order to get to those realms, we really need to remember our inner child. And that means, can we, like that song Return to Innocence for any 80s babies, or before or beyond, before that, returning to innocence, and like remembering how to just see with the eyes of our inner child, where everything is beautiful, like everything is wonderful, everything's full of magic. Magic is a huge part of it. And like not carrying on, like there was this video of a lion attacking like a gazelle, and how it just like shook all the trauma off of its body, and it cleared it in like 2 seconds. And how that's the most important thing. Here we are getting distracted by a million things, which is like, that's how they get us, by getting us so distracted and divided. And anytime you're giving, it's like self-mastery. Like anytime you find yourself giving your power away to something, it's like bringing that power back. Being a victim is a way of giving your power away. Blaming is a way of giving your power away. So just like really taking like a weekend, a week, a month, and just like focused intention. I take all my power back. I forgive those who I've wronged. I forgive those who have wronged me. I forgive myself for anything I might have done, consciously, unconsciously, and just like Ho'oponopono, I might have added an extra pono, just repeating that mantra to really like, because I feel these, like sometimes, like I had an experience at 4 with an entity that kind of activated my Kundalini at age 4. So it's effect, and when you said, Joan, about sexual way, like through sexual energies, like going to those higher states, like and like if I'm holding on to shame and guilt and blame, then I'm not going to be able to enter that state, that those higher states of being. So, today, today, and like what you said, Neil, I'll stop after this, or I'll put a comma after this. How like every day we're getting these gifts. Are we seeing the like victim mindset? This is happening to me. Consciousness, creator consciousness says, how am I co-creating this experience? What am I here to learn from this experience? And the blessings are like turning those the problem is the solution. I heard it on a podcast today talking about permaculture, like wherever the problem is the solution. So in those things where like, oh, this doesn't feel good, I want to go numb out. Like my moon's in Pisces, very like wanting to numb out and disappear. And it's like, no, can I just be present with this? And I was vulnerable with my partner, and I was like, oh, so much insecurity came up, and I have this like, it feels like an abandonment, but I'm like, it's not an adult. It's not like me at this age feeling like you're gonna run away with some other guy, but it feels like Tarua, my inner child's like, you're gonna leave me. And then I just like tuned, like first step one is like what you said, Neil, like I wrote it down, just like self-awareness, being aware of what's coming up. And in those moments, like, I don't know about you guys, but like my Aries side just wants to bury the emotion and act all tough. But when you practice radical vulnerability and transparency, so especially in a beloved partnership or in life in general, it's going to mirror that to you. So it's like, hey babe, I'm feeling like all these feelings are coming up for me: insecurity, inadequate, not good enough, like all just came out of nowhere like that. And step one was like feeling it. I'm responsible to parent my inner child, and I'm also responsible to speak the vulnerability with my partner. And I shared it, and I was lying down on the couch and I was asking for what I need, when every part of me is like, don't share this, hide it, run, like. So I think those are the gifts that help us. We can alchemize that experience into a gift, and it allowed her to see me in my vulnerability, which in my mind I'm like, I'm ashamed you're not seeing me in my most strongest part. And it's like that judgment that, I don't know if guys just have this, where it's like a judgment of, I'm not that strong. Like it's so much strength in vulnerability. It's so like the opposite. She's like, wow, like you're most powerful now when you're being vulnerable and transparent and feeling, that delicacy that we feel. So just wanted to share that.
I can see you feeling that.
Yeah, I feel that. Good, Joan, go ahead.
No, I just could feel it. I think there's a lot to be said for men to be able to share their vulnerability, their pain, their tears, their trauma, because if you don't, your woman won't know actually who you are. And they need to be able to hold you just like they're asking you to hold them when they need that. Right, Lauren? I see Lauren breathing.
Yeah, honestly, I got goosebumps from your share right there, brother. And this is a great segue into Lauren and Shofar, because Lauren, definitely is beyond what I'm about to share right now. She does so much, but helping people communicate within relationships as well. And then Shofar, definitely with the divine union. And I just want to share a couple of things that I got from what you just shared, Tarek, before we go into Lauren, is that what we're doing right now is we're providing tools. And hey, we're providing tools, everybody, in order for us to really bring harmony and peace to these traumas. And so if something really resonates with you, go ahead and write it down, right? And we're just going to be sharing our own experiences and what occurred here. And this is truly the conversations that need to take place. If Portal to Ascension had a different name, it would probably be healing trauma, right? And because ultimately, that's the ultimate goal. Like everything we share, even about ancient history, how does it connect to consciousness, spirituality? It's really about how can we understand who we are, the diversity of humanity, and fully accept and own who we are without really getting to the nitty gritty of these traumas that we've taken on. I used to have an aversion to the word trauma. I mean, not trauma, to the word healing. Because I used to think that the word healing represented there's a lack, right? And ultimately, the paradox is we need to accept that the fact that we are right where we're supposed to be, right? It took me like a decade of not even using the word healing. I would do sound healing events. I would not use the word healing. I would just call it sound activation. So for me to even get to a point where I'm even putting this word in something right here is my transcending of the polarity of that terminology. And so it's really, when I say healing, I want to just preface and put a disclaimer out there that we're not saying that, because the only way we can heal is to realize that we're whole and complete, and that these experiences that we had are part of what we signed up for. We signed up to have these experiences so that we can have the contrast. And with this world of amnesia, where we don't remember our divine connection all the time, what's the best way to remember your divinity? To experience the contrast of it. And what have we experienced? We've experienced a lot of darkness on this planet, but that is the beautiful catalyst. We have to love that experience that we had in order for us to, be what we want to be. And that goes back to my experience of, and I've shared this, multiple times on Portal to Ascension. I was sexually molested as a child from 3 to 7. And those experiences literally are the reason why I created Portal to Ascension. How do I heal from this molestation? And it took me a while for me to even realize the reason why I created Portal to Ascension and that it came from that. So I could not even be upset at my perpetuator, at the person who I was a victim to, because I realized that I created the most amazing organization from my trauma. So I was at a point where I couldn't even be angry or upset or even love my inner child because I saw that I created something great out of it. It took me 10 years of Portal to Ascension before I even got to a point that I could see myself as a separate child and actually love myself. Only 3 years ago did I start actually getting to a point where I started actually feeling the pain of that child and what happened to him, right? Because I was spiritually bypassing the whole time. I was just no, everything is great. I'm doing so well now. I forgive, but I truly never forgave. And then finally, it ultimately came out of me. And I had this whole entire release where I was crying for hours. And I finally saw myself as a child, and I gave myself the love that no one ever gave. I became the father to myself. And that was when my healing journey really began. And I just wanted to share that with you all. And Lauren, I know you've been, you deeply work with these types of traumas. So I'd love to pass it over to you and just whatever you feel like sharing right now.
Yeah, wow. Everything everyone said was so deeply resonant. And I love when Joan explained the mountaintops and bringing her clients above and seeing that higher perspective. And then also knowing that as we're working through forgiveness, we are at ground level. I sit completely and just say, oh, forgive, because there are stages and there's levels to forgiveness. And without even knowing that something like that may have occurred, like molestation or rape, we can't heal through it. And I've experienced very similar abuse where I wasn't even aware it had occurred to me until memories and visions started happening more and more. And working through that really truly is getting your emotional body to purge and feeling the pain that may be stored in your physical body. Like I mentioned, the pressure points within your body. And there's so many different pressure points within our womb space, within our yoni, within everywhere that's stored that we might not want to move into because it's a trigger. So yes, we numb it or we push it away or pretend it's not there. But those stages, those levels with compassion as we move into them is to truly feel them and know that we are safe within our inner child and our sensuality. And being in tune with the present moment is this powerful creation portal where we're here right now, we're in it. And it's so beautiful to move through it. And so with clients, it's mostly releasing in stages, depending on the level, because, nothing's one size fits all. We're all on a spectrum of everything. And narcissistic abuse is a very big thing in this world. And there's a spectrum of that as well. And some people might think of that as the reptilian portion of our brain, is the narcissism, egoic ways of thinking and ruling, or patriarchal systems of believing. And so forgiveness is forgiving those that have abused in levels as we're processing the grief, as we're fully feeling the grief, as we don't want relationships to repattern themselves, right? Because if we've experienced that as a child with caregivers or parents, then most likely you're repeating that type of nature in all of your relationships, either friendships, partnerships. So becoming aware to that, and then really purging that from not only your body, but your entire auric field, so that you're calling in really sovereign, playful, fun friendships that really co-create together and communicate empowerment together, right? Really feeling, oh, I'm feeling a little shy about this right now, but I'd like to communicate this to you so that it can be worked through and we can work on it together. And really being able to receive love from others, but also give it. And that was something I had blocked a little bit, was to give, because I didn't want to give to someone who I didn't feel deserved that. But once you're just emanating more love, you know, you can give love to anyone and know how to set boundaries with love. And it's okay to set boundaries with love. And then also calling in and devoting yourself of being a better person every day. That's a big claim to the universe, is just being a better person every day. I'm always looking for more playfulness, more fun, and less judgments.
Thank you so much, Lauren. More playfulness, more fun. Definitely resonate with that, and cultivating that in my life, you know. And as we release these situations, these experiences, these traumas that have kind of put a damper on that, all of a sudden that joy starts to come from it. And that's what I'm realizing, you know. I had depression, anxiety for quite some time. And then as I started addressing certain things in my life, I feel like there's this spark inside of me that has been reignited. And it's really about, like, let's have fun with this experience on Earth. Right, Joan?
I'm going to say yes, let's have fun. Lauren, I'm going to go in a second, guys. Lauren, I just want you to know the other thing that I loved about what you said is we heard the birds and the critters behind you. And I don't know, that somehow also brings me such a sense of peace, that the outdoors. And so you actually brought it in your presentation just to deepen the experience. So I really appreciate that. Neil, I really appreciate you so much. I love working with Portal to Ascension. Tarek, Shofar, I loved your last presentation. I'm really sorry. This was unexpected pleasure for me. So thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you too.
Good to see you,
Neil. Yeah, I wish I was a fly on the wall with Neil and Tarek tomorrow. I think that's going to be a fun thing. All right, bye everyone.
Love you, Joan.
Love you, love you, love you.
Bye, Joan.
And Joan and I, just to let everybody know, are going to be living together for 4 months starting August 15th. So you guys are going to be seeing us on a lot of different things together and creating some magic, because just a little mid plug here, we're doing a Portal to Ascension San Diego conference in April of next year. We're going back to live events, guys, and it's like the biggest production I'm at over 4,500 events, and this is going to be the largest event that we've ever created, and some amazing people there, and just continuing the work, right? Ancient history, extraterrestrial awareness, but again, really getting to what really it's all about is doing the inner work, embodying the modalities that we're sharing here today, so that we can become the caretakers of this new planet. And speaking about San Diego, good segue, Shofar. So one of the reasons why I really appreciate Shofar is because I'm on this journey of, you know, embodying the divine masculine, and not just saying like I know what it is, kind of also trying to figure out what that really even means, you know. And just from my immediate conversation with Shofar, I really felt that he is fully immersed in providing tools for people to become the divine masculine and even, you know, the divine feminine, but specifically when he works with men. And that's why I appreciated the workshop that you had online and when saw you in person, and really just becoming the individuals that I feel that we need to be in order for us to be able to emanate compassion and love into the world and make some real change and really see and connect with each other. So again, brother, I just appreciate everything that you do. I just want to hand it over to you. Go ahead and share whatever you feel based on, you know, what we've been talking about here.
So much, man. Wow. I want to breathe. First, I'll breathe in, ground myself. Cause yeah, so all of your shares definitely resonate. And, you know, Lauren, I love what you just was saying about the setting of boundaries and stuff. And for me, the way I look at that is like when we're talking about innocence, one of the things is that the divine masculine energy, and I always like to just clarify for any of the listeners out there through time and space, is that When I say masculine, it does not necessarily mean male. So we're not necessarily talking about gender. We're talking more about polarity and energy, right? So with the masculine energy, though, one of the things that it does is it protects that which is most important. And it protects that which is vulnerable. And when we talk about innocence, we all want to reclaim our innocence and, like Tarek, be able to have that inner picture of ourselves at hand, at will, in our heart. In order to do that, sometimes you gotta have that sword with you, and to be willing to even set up. We want our white blood cells to have that divine masculine energy and say, no, you're an intruder. You don't belong here. And that's another thing that is on the planet now too, is that the remembrance that we can have an open heart, or we can also bring that other energy, which is just as divine. Like, see, all of them are divine energies. There's a divine energy to protection, and to say, no, that ain't gonna fly now. And so we need to be carrying both, and to do the warrior work, to know which, so that when it comes time for this, you don't have to question yourself and feel all burnt, beat up about it. It's like you've done the work so that when you do have to go there, it's in alignment. So I wanted to say that about innocence. And then also this thing that, because I when I think of innocence, I first off, the word innocence has N in it, because innocence is always in us. We can't lose it. It's like virginity. I never noticed that either, but virgin has N in it also. And oh, I lost my virginity. We can never lose our virginity. We just go deeper into our virginity. Sensual emotional exchange and sacred sex just takes us deeper into our own virginity, deeper into our own purity, deeper into our own innocence. And one other thing I want to say on that is, like, even a predator, something like a alligator, or I know you, Tarek, you had mentioned about the gazelle getting away from the lion or the cheetah, right? It's like even the cheetah or the lion is innocent because it has no ill will. Now, I do think, and like Joan was speaking to, and I think I've heard you speak to it too, Neil, that we do have some consciousness, and I feel like it's very rare, because most things do not have like an ill will towards other life. There's only, even a virus doesn't have ill will, it's just trying to survive. But what I'm talking about is those who have consciousness and are purposely doing things that are pretty effed up. With that, we have no more place for that. So that's what I want to speak to.
Thank you, brother. The innocence component, I used to say to people that my innocence was robbed, right? I used to say that term. And then just only like 6 months ago, somebody reframed that for me. And they said, your innocence was never robbed. You just forgot it, And so, and what it really is just peeling back. Like, I love the analogy of the onions and peeling back the layers of the onions, because it's right there deep underneath. But we've taken on all of these experiences that have kind of like just dimmed the light a bit. But the light is always within us, right? The light didn't go anywhere. It was just for us to reclaim it, rather than waiting for an external situation to give it back to us. So there was something that was mentioned a couple of times here. And I know when Lauren and I had that great conversation we had a few months ago, we spoke about boundaries. And I'm still trying to figure these things out, guys. Like what? So my question is, really, I want you to take it wherever you want with this, but what are boundaries and how do we set them? So let's do that. How about you, Tarek?
Yes, thank you. Great question. Shofar, Lauren, thank you all, Neil, all for sharing such great wisdom. The word wisdom has is in it. I'm gonna like dissect every word now, brother. I mean, that's just that play energy that, that's Tarua coming out to play. But yeah, if someone's being spiritual and not sharing their playfulness, then that doesn't qualify them for me. That, spirituality, if we're taking ourselves so seriously, then I think we're missing one of the points of it. But Great question. Boundaries, I feel I still have challenges with, brother. Especially, it's like the metaphor I got, Neil, was having a home, and imagine people breaking into that home from, like, let's say they broke open the front door, robbed, an experience of feeling, yeah, being robbed, or I forgot how you worded it, like, yeah. And then, so we have to now go back to that front door and fix that front door. We need to fix it, because a lot of us, when that boundary was crossed, we leave that front door broken. And people, even good intentional people, Neil, might just go, oh, this guy doesn't have a door stopping me from going in, so I'm just going to go in. And then we're like, what? Why is this like? And it's harder, I think, for people who already had it dishonored and not respected, but it's an ongoing practice. Like, even with my partner, I'm like, all right, babe, I'm going to be working now. Okay, babe, like, I can't have a conversation right now. And it's like just getting comfortable doing it over and over and over again. And it's like, energetically, there's this practice I do when I do Tantra workshops at festivals, where you just like, maybe we could just do it together right now. So you're gonna put your hand out and just go no. And in that, we're going to set an intention that that front door that might be broken or busted, that good intentional people and maybe not good intentional people are feeling that there's no wall. Because someone who has super strong boundaries, a predator, a person with that predator energy, who's more in that maybe reptilian part of us, is going to challenge that, is going to sense that there's a lack of a boundary. So we're responsible to fix that door, so that at least people now knock on our door, and then we get to say, yes, you may, or no. So just getting comfortable saying no, because that people pleaser in us, just practice saying no. Hey, can I do this? No. Hey, someone's messaging you, not now. Like, you're saying yes to yourself. You're your number one priority. So you're not really saying no to them. There's this judgment towards no. Like, we're not responsible for how someone takes our no. That's not our job. We're not here to babysit people's egos. We're here to honor our hearts. And if you're honoring your heart, that's your responsibility. And then the boundary, even with how are they going to feel if now you're crossing their boundary in a way, right? So you're only responsible to speak what's true for you. Let me check in. I'm getting a yes, I'm getting a no, I'm getting a maybe, and then, okay, no. So getting comfortable saying no, and let's just maybe do the no thing if you guys are up for it. So at the count of 3, we're just going to stick our hand out and do a no, and that's going to just strengthen that energy field around us that allows others, even on a vibrational level, without even having to say it. Because people who have challenges with boundaries, we keep, right, Neil? We keep feeling like we need to keep. Why aren't people getting it? Like, I'm saying no. So on a vibrational level, they'll just feel it, and they're like, I'm not messing with this person here. So let's invite you guys to do it with me now, if you'd like. And so at the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. No. Let's just do it another time, because usually the first time it's a nice energy, but we don't want the nice energy. We want that, like what Shofar was saying, that protector warrior energy. So 1, 2, 3. No. Beautiful. And so it is.
Thank you so much for sharing. I was going to ask you, and I think you kind of answered it, because as soon as you said that, I was feeling like, how do we tune in so we don't go on the other extreme of the no's without realizing that there's sometimes to say yes? But I feel like you shared it, and maybe you want to just share a few times a little bit more right here real quick. But I think you said really checking in with yourself, and you said that just briefly. So maybe you can spend like a minute speaking about that, specifically.
Sorry, can you reword the question, brother?
Yeah. So when we are creating boundaries, sometimes it's easy to go from one extreme of being a people pleaser and a yes person to going to the other extreme of saying no, even when sometimes no might not really be the answer. You specifically spoke about tuning in, whether it's a yes or a no, right? Mm-hmm. And making that decision based on your inner knowing, right? So could you maybe speak on that a little more, of how to really tune in to what you truly feel, rather than being like, I've been traumatized so much because I have no boundaries. No.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Great question. So let's just embody it right now. So let's say someone is challenging your boundary, and maybe wanting more of your time, wanting your time and energy, like there's this pull energy, and you're wanting to do this, focus on the mission in front of you, whatever you're being and doing in this moment, and it's something's wanting you to go elsewhere. So can we love ourselves enough to put ourselves first? So someone's like, hey, can you do this for me? And so just be a second of tuning in and going, like, no thoughts, like, but asking or being, am I getting a yes to do this? Am I getting a no to do this? And if it feels heavy, or if it feels kind of blocked, or you'll know your no and you'll know your yes. Like, do I get a yes? It usually feels expansive for me, but for everyone's going to be different. Light, no just feels contractive and heavier. But in general, like, I love, like, I have no, there's healthy selfishness, right? Putting yourself first, filling your cup so you can give others from your overflow. And so my default, like, the more I'm learning to love myself, the more my default is, hey, I'm focusing on what's most important to me right now. Nothing gets my time. And then we just don't want to go from bound. I used to think I would check in, feels light. Yes, I would let them know. And then, is there another time we can do this? Or however, like, I'm very blunt in my communication, but I'm learning to be inclusive. My Aries no just feels so, it hurts people. So people get hurt from it. So I'm learning to say, is there, like, there's a way to say no where it's like, is there another time? That way you're saying no, but it's inclusive. They're part of that conversation. And then the last part of that I would say is, I lost that train of thought, but it was, love myself, saying no, feeling in the yes or no. I forgot it. I'm going to let it go and let it come back.
Thank you so much, bro. And just to reiterate one of the things you said, and just adding a little to it, can we love ourselves enough to do what's right for ourselves? Right? That's what it's really all about. Yeah. Thank you so much. Lauren, what are your thoughts?
When we think about boundaries and just communicating and autonomous relating to other people and friendships and partnerships and what have you, it's looking into the different values of our connections and seeing what we're open and we're closed to. Maybe with some friendships, we might be open to massage or just closeness, cuddling, and nothing else, maybe close to sex or closed off to anything further than that. So I think making it a little less mysterious and elusive, and being vulnerable, being really open with certain types of friendships, saying, I have a need for this. I have a need for connection and touch and intimacy. And are you open to this? And if it's rejected, it's okay. Sometimes the rejection can be so scary, especially if you're looking for something and opening up to something. But you put yourself out there, and that's important to do. And then knowing what you're closed off to right away, working with that intuition faster and faster. Seeing like a soul is very like-minded in their innocence, in their purity, jovial, but also a good match for you. And so noticing that intuition is a great part in boundaries. And like that sword of truth that Shofar showed earlier, it's like a it's a more embodied boundary of no. So yeah, embodying those boundaries, like following that intuition as soon as you notice a connection could be more platonic or more sensual, and seeing what your needs really are with those different values is an important part of really relating and knowing what you're feeling. I feel this way and I need to share this to you. I feel angry for this situation. Let's talk through it. If you'd like to talk through it now, maybe later, maybe you need some time to process my anger about this scenario, or my sadness, my hurt. Anger is really just a secondary emotion. It's probably hurt underneath it for sadness. So taking tune of what is really inside here in order to relate, set those boundaries, and speak autonomously.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lauren. From what you shared, one thing that, multiple things stood out, but definitely the understanding of vulnerability, because when you think of boundaries, and I've even been there, when I think of boundaries, I'm thinking of just like this warrior energy soul only, right? But it's vulnerability can create boundaries, because if we're vulnerable, we can be honest with ourselves and who we're with, right? And when we can speak exactly what is going on rather than maybe being triggered and reactory. Because a lot of times we might create boundaries based on reacting because we've been treated, badly, or we're passive aggressive. So our boundaries are violated so many times for years, and then all of a sudden the passive aggressive energy comes out, and a boundary is set in that moment, but in such a reactory way, it just creates more disharmony in the relationship. So being open and vulnerable, and it goes back to what Tarek was sharing about the conversations you have with your partner, Tarek, is really just like being honest about your insecurities and what's coming up for you, so that we can grow together rather than hiding things. Because if we hide things, they just come out to, in other disharmonic ways later on in the future. So that's the key component I wanted to stress right there. Go ahead, Tarek.
Thank you. I just remembered what it was, how, like, I'm 40 years young now, and I just realized that when I thought I was putting up, I don't know if you have this, Neil, too, it might be because of traumas, but it's like I thought I was putting up a boundary with my partner when I just wanted to pull back from the world and just unplug and regroup. I don't know if they call it being in the man cave, or just in my own space. Maybe the water Pisces inside of me that just wants to and when I do that, people are perceiving it, and she's perceiving it as me putting up a big wall. And for me, I didn't have that distinction, so I would just invite us to feel into what a wall feels like, and a healthy boundary, because like you said, there's healthy and unhealthy. And I'd also invite us to really take the time, because some of us haven't ever taken the time to ask ourselves the question, what are my boundaries in all the different areas? What are my sexual boundaries? What are my physical boundaries, time boundaries, money boundaries, boundaries in every area? My partner's I need to set a bound, and it's ongoing. When I'm communicating, Tarek, I need you to fully listen and not interrupt. That's my Aries interrupter side. Being very impatient and fiery. So it's a boundary, and people naturally, I don't think, react well to boundaries, because I think as kids we all heard no a billion times, and so I think there's this innocent, maybe a part of people that challenges boundaries, you're saying no, but let me really see if you mean no. So even from loved ones, there's this they're just gonna playfully challenge it.
Your mind's saying no, but your body's saying yeah. You know what I mean? So
Not the R. Kelly out here.
A yardstick to measure, right? A lot of things would be, if they still what I feel is that when you speak your truth and you're vulnerable, and then you still have your boundaries violated, but you're really being honest and true and checking in with yourself, then maybe there's some other actions that need to take place, because maybe that relationship isn't really feeding you, or maybe you're in this loop with this individual that person maybe isn't able to respect your boundaries. So, and when I'm talking right here, I'm speaking to myself, really, because I'm trying to figure this out myself. I have a lot of issues with boundaries. I just got out of a 10-year relationship where I literally had no boundaries. And now I'm on a journey to figure out what that really means, and so that's why we're having these conversations here. And so
circle work, Neil, they call the different archetypes. So maybe you're very activated in the magician, right? What is it? The warrior, the magician, the king.
Right.
There's one more, and I always add the inner child, but maybe just meditating on that archetype of the warrior archetype within us, because that's the part that goes, hey, I got you, Neil. Hey, whoever went, almost like a bodyguard with us the whole time. It's deciphering and discerning and saying yes to things and no to things. So,
right.
And in our hero's journey, we maybe not a lot of these are strong, and then the different archetypes: the king, the warrior, the magician, the lover, But the warrior one, I feel I was taught from that work. Maybe Shofar, you have more of that information where it's like, yeah, how can we activate more of that warrior archetype that's very good at being that protector and
Right.
saying yes and no to people.
Thanks, brother. Shofar, over to you, brother.
I love putting a synergy of what Lauren and Tarek, what you both have said about it, because Lauren, you put your hand on your heart when you was talking about boundaries, and the heart has a natural sheath around it called the pericardium, to help protect it, and from different invaders and everything, and even going down to the cellular level, we have it's funny, like when man does it, we put up the Great Wall of China, or the Berlin Wall or something that's very there's no softness to it. But a lot of times we look at the inner wisdom of the body. We have barriers in the body, but it's permeable. You know what I'm saying? Like the cellular membrane, like everything don't go into the cell, but some stuff do, and it's soft, but yet it's still got a barrier, and same thing with the heart, the sheath around the heart. Same thing with this beautiful thing that we call skin. It's about a boundary of sorts to keep certain things in and certain things out. And we get so obsessed about the color and stuff about it on this planet, but it is a natural, it's one of the ways that we're breathing. So what I'm getting at is that if we could do it more like nature with the grace that she has, because she does it with such grace, it's like sometimes we don't even know that the boundary is set. We don't even got to do the Heisman, trophy, face mask on nobody. It's like you do it with such grace when we get back to nature.
Thank you for sharing, brother. And just to talk one more thing about boundaries here is that, as some of you guys might know, I'm Indian, Indian family, super conservative Hindu family I was raised in. And I didn't realize, because I never really spoke to that many Indian people about this growing up, because most Indian kids I knew just were happy to follow suit with whatever their parents said. So I was one of the only ones I knew around me for like a few decades, like 3 decades, that was actually going against everything that my parents wanted. Well, not everything, but what they wanted me to become, right? And then not until I was in my 30s did I realize that my mother did not respect my boundaries. There was no respect for boundaries at all. And then all of a sudden, mid-30s, I started meeting all these awake Indian people, and I was like, they exist. And as I was meeting them, I was hearing the same thing. Mother doesn't expect boundaries. My ex-wife went over to a friend's place that was Indian, and she goes, oh, you're Mexican? You're married to an Indian person? Oh my God, how is it living with his mother? She probably has no boundaries. I was like, whoa, I guess this is actually a phenomena, an archetype within my culture, And so even to today, I'm really working on that whole element of, I'm not really going anywhere with this conversation. I'm just sharing, my whole interaction with my family and them not respecting boundaries and being in my space all the time, not having any privacy. So the boundaries actually extend to your local family as well, like the people that are, that sometimes, I feel that my mom feels like she owns me. You know what I mean? That like there is no like separation, and they can be in my space, but I can't be in their space, So these are things that as a 39-year-old man turning 40 this year, I'm still dealing with, And so, yeah, again, I'm not going anywhere with this. I'm just sharing vulnerably here my experiences and what I'm attempting to, address in my life. But before we get into the next question, if anybody wants to comment on that, please do.
Well, yeah, brother, thanks for your vulnerability. Go ahead, Shofar.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you make me think of like, because, Cherty, you've talked to her, and, she has that same experience from your culture and everything. And it makes me think of the skit with Rick James on Dave Chappelle. It's like, you're a habitual line stepper. It's like, fuck your
habitual line stepper. I'm going to rewatch that just to hear that line. Neil, I can relate. My mom used to, I don't want to say this because my mom watches my stuff, but like my parents sometimes talk about my younger brother and, as the younger one, we all babied him. And, there's this like thing of like high expectations and like, our kid, from their perspective, like wanting us, their kids to, you know, continuously grow and aspire and be more, and they want the best for us, which is beautiful. And then there was a time where it was like all the imperfections of my younger brother were coming up in my conversations with my parents, and I had to clearly just say like, hey, mom and dad, and I try to make it where they're not, if there's a way to do it, like you said, Shofar, like the, you know, that great, natural, graceful way of doing it, not the like overly wall of China way. And I was just like, mom and dad, I feel weird. So I made it about me. And with vulnerability, it kind of softens the communication. So when if you're initiating it with, I feel very weird talking about my younger brother when he's not here. So it's not like a blame energy of like, you guys are talking behind my younger brother's back, that's bad. It was more like, I feel very uncomfortable, and I kind of have this rule where I don't like to talk about people unless they're in the room. And you know, can we do it when he's here, as opposed to like, there's another way of doing it where they're gonna feel shame and blame, and so there's an art to it. But I think if you're leading with, and Neil, I intuitively feel you're able to more easily than most maybe share the vulnerability underneath. So if you're leading with, I feel, you know, uncomfortable when I'm feeling uncomfortable when this is happening, and then creating that boundary. Like with my parents, they used to call whenever they wanted, and I was like, can we chat every weekend? Like I can call you on a Saturday or a Sunday. So I think that, like, it's like the win-win. I think in there's, as long as there's a win-win, everyone's happy, and you don't want to, like, if there's a win-lose, then it's really lose-lose in a way.
Thank you. Great tools. Lauren, do you want to comment on that, on boundaries with our family members, our parents in particular?
Definitely, yeah. Family is one of the hardest things we can do, is communicating to our families and claiming ownership for what they may blame or shame for, and doing it in your own sovereign way. So for example, me moving to outside of my home state in Connecticut was a big deal to them. And it's a big deal to a lot of families to move away. But it changes your energetic blueprint in a big way, being able to be on your own, kind of fly from the nest a little bit further, and really stand in your own power. So any guilt tripping that may happen, or any parental, like Neil was saying, power that wants to kind of control, how can we communicate through that with better ways of how we feel, and setting those boundaries with guilt tripping, saying, I don't want to be communicated to like this, and we can hop back into this conversation. I understand you're hurt, things like that, but like working through it in flexibility, while also not when there's a lot of emotional charge occurring, because there's a high level of emotional charge, then really no resonance or no solution will be created. So yeah, communicating with family, taking it step by step, and really going through the wheel of emotions. So like, I feel maybe hurt or sad, and then reasons why I'm grateful for you at the end, and reasons why you've taught me so much about myself, can be a great way to create that solution with different types of emotions, how you feel. And yeah, so that's the biggest part that came up for me.
Thank you. I don't know if anybody tuning in can relate. And this is something, just because I'm feeling the energy of this experience, this very vulnerable podcast that we have going on here. Sometimes when I speak to my parents and some deep traumas come up, I regress to like 10-year-old Neil, you know, and it's really upsets me and gets me angry. And I feel like I haven't done, you know, I do so much work, but then just give me a few hours with my parents sometimes. And it's like, I'm like, where did all that work go? You know, and I used to judge it. Now I'm okay with it. And being okay with it makes me not judge it, which allows me to work through it and not like have it carry with me after the experience, you know. But it does happen. It's interesting because a lot of these wounds started at a young age. And I feel that when these specific wounds are triggered, it takes me to that age and I interact with them as I was when I was that, you know. So I don't know if anybody can relate. This happens to me. Yeah. Go ahead, Tarek.
I love that. And I feel like every time I used to visit my folks once a year, and then it's like, I just looked at it as like an assessment. It's like going to a doctor and getting a scan. It's like, all right, let me see what the fruits of my labor are. Let me go to hang out with my folks and see like how much, let me see the mirroring of whatever, all the inner work that I've been doing. And then like their behaviors, we can't control external people's behaviors. But I remember once working so much on the boundary stuff, and I remember once I could see my dad. My dad's a Scorpio, so he, like you, Neil. So I could see something was like bubbling up in his field, and I could just feel like it was coming out. It was gonna come out directed at me, and I was like, and I was just like, I just put my hand out, and I was like, Dad, I can't speak to you right now. And I just like looked at my hand as if like, you know, like Neo, what's his name? Neo from the Matrix, where he just realizes how much powerful, when he stopped the bullets, Shophar, remember that scene? So I was like, whoa, like the power of just being like, that's why I love that no exercise, because I literally just went up to him. Because in my mind, Neil, I don't know, like in my dad's like this larger than life figure, like he's a really big guy too. But like sometimes we do regress, like we're like, we can't say no to this person. This person's like God, you know, from a child's perspective. So from our inner child, and it was just like, I can't talk to you in this moment because and it's just something about that. Like you have a say, you have a vote, even if your inner child never experienced that in the past. We need to remind it, like, hey, you have a vote, you have a say in every experience when it's involving your time, your energy. I can't speak to you right now, but I'd love to like talk later. And then there's just two movies that are really like, I'm getting nudged to share. So The Wisdom of Trauma is a movie I would highly recommend watching. It just came out recently. Amazing work by Gaur Mate. And then recently, I don't know if you guys are aware, but Trans came out, the story of Kathy O'Brien, who my heart, like, she's like a hero, going through the darkest, I know people sometimes say don't use dark, but like the darkest of experiences, like that reptilian mind in full actualization, and then her being the mind control victim from a very young age, bred for that purpose, and going through all of that, and then coming out of it and still speaking about it. So it was beautiful to see her documentary. I'll put the links in the comments below, but Kathy O'Brien, Trans, and Gaur Mate, Wisdom of Trauma, so inspiring because she connects it not only to the trauma she's experienced, but to come out of that level of mind control trauma and speak about it, and then come up with protocols to help us, and connecting it to, hey guys, did you know that when we were going through our child trauma, they would cover our mouths with masks, and how like she's linking what's happening to us now in this reality to the same things they were doing strategically with them, and like how like things like 9/11, like it's like a way to just traumatize us, and all these things are forms of trauma. So just acknowledge that we have been experiencing all these different traumas collectively on an energetic level. And I was just so inspired by watching her story. It just gives me so much hope that even when you're face to face and the world, like everything's set up against you and all odds are stacked up against you, that it's like that the power of love and the power of the soul is amazing. Like I really feel like we just flirt with how powerful it is, but I don't know if I pray that we all actually actualize, like I'm getting emotional, actualize how powerful it is.
Beautiful share, bro.
Thanks, man.
Acknowledging the trauma that we've experienced, not just individually, but collectively, is huge. So much trauma has been experienced collectively. And we have this whole thing about progress, productivity, moving forward. We have to get back to work. We have to produce, have a shelter over our heads, provide for everyone, that we don't even get to an opportunity to acknowledge, even, let alone process it, to even acknowledge what's been happening to us for thousands of years, really. But if you just look in the last few years, some hardcore things have happened, and we're just all back to work, hustling now. So definitely thank you. And I wanted to just share a few comments that are coming in here in the YouTube. Some great things are being said. Keith was saying boundaries have different definitions per culture, and that's a really good point there. And we have the ascending ancient saying cultures closer tied generationally to tribalism tend to have closer connections, which seems to tie into the lack of personal space. So that's a very interesting point as well that I didn't really think of. We have Ian Olm saying having the courage to say I feel weird with one's parents is a great thing. I know I didn't speak up when I was younger because I had no idea what to say. Well, I thought so at least. And then we have another comment here from Keith. I feel that if people speak their truth, they'd be surprised how much people will listen. Beautiful comments. Thanks, guys. All right, so now we're going to go into, we spent a good amount of time right here specifically speaking about boundaries. And Lauren dropped off, but I think maybe that's her internet. Hopefully she'll be back. But I want to speak about ancestral healing now, okay? Because, and the reason why this is coming to the forefront is because there's a healing trauma event for sure. But I was just spent the last couple of weeks somewhere in Mexico at a yoga retreat. And because it's yoga, I just thought everybody would be esoterically inclined, you know? And when I was there, I realized that the conversations that I have with all you guys, I really couldn't have with them. They're just people that were into yoga. And on the first day, we're eating dinner, and I start speaking about some plant medicine experiences I had. And there's like 5 or 6 people around me in my localized area, and none of them knew anything about any plant medicine experiences. And I just completely thought that they would get it. And I talk about plant medicine, and I went straight into ancestral healing and how 7 generations of healing happened through this one experience. And someone asked me, ancestral healing, what's that? And I had to really tune into what does that mean? And how do I explain it to someone that has no idea of even the fact that we have ancestral traumas that we bring into this reality, and we can heal not only that within ourselves, but go back into our lineage and heal it. So I felt that there would be a good question to kind of just bring up into this subject right here. So I kind of want you guys just to flow as we're freestyling this whole event, just about what that is. How do we heal that? Just any of your thoughts around it. So let's go. Shofar, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I'll go in on that one. One way to look at it is like all of the ways that you and our ancestors experienced this thing that we call life, and had certain conditions on the love, or had perceived something other than love, perceived something other than peace. Because our core is that. Our core is always peace. Our core is love. So, but there can be a perception because of different things that happen. We may call those traumas, we may call them hurts, that happens throughout life. And we can become in a place where we start to circle around to that experience over and over again. It's in our dendrites, right? It's in we keep going down the same pathways, like a groove gets deeper and deeper and easier to keep going back to those experiences. This can be passed on, as we are being taught through the science of epigenetics. This can be passed on throughout the bloodline. They've done, that experiment for those, again, through time and space, who, if you're not familiar with it, they've done experiments where they take a rat and give it a stimulus, like let it smell some lavender, and shock it every time it smells the lavender. And then a couple of offspring later, a couple of descendants later, they do the same thing. They spray some lavender, and these offspring of the original rat still freak out, as if, even though they're not getting shocked. So in other words, the DNA, and I like to call DNA divine natural awareness. Divine natural awareness. Emotions go through time and space quantumly. And that's why a certain smell and we're back in a certain time, because mind and time are connected in a very deep way, and emotions are the bridge. Emotions are that bridge. And that's why I say, go back again. I want to throw that back in there. SEX, Central Emotional Exchange, is literally one of the many tools, but it's one of the powerful tools that we have to heal these different traumas, especially ancestrally. One other thing I want to say on that, and I hand it back over, is to be very clear that we have different isms or I-isms, different ways that we see ourselves that can be expanded upon, that can be evolved. what I mean is like, so Kirti and me have a webinar series that we do, or a module that we do with some of our couples or singles that we work with called Healing Us or Healing US. And in there, we have an acronym, racism, RACISM, right? The R is for racism. Easy enough. We know what that is, right? The A is for ableism and ageism. Being able-bodied, that's an ism. You know, not everybody is able-bodied. So we can have different false belief systems, false BS around being just able-bodied, and somebody else not being, having certain quote unquote disabilities. Ageism, that's a very real thing, whether you too quote unquote young or old, you know, we do that in our cultures. The C is for classism. That is something that we have had on this planet for a long time. Some of our even most elite cultures that we made, they still had classism. Intellectualism is the I, thinking that because I've got a quote unquote degree. I remember one brother on the street one time, a vendor in the street back in Virginia, he broke it down for me. He was like, yo, you know, they got us so food. We out here working, we go to school for 4 years to get a degree. He was like, and it takes 360 degrees to make a circle. I was like, damn, bro, that's deep, you know? The S is for sexism. Sexism. And the M is for materialism. It's materialism. Now, there's so many other isms, right? But these are some of the core rooted ones that we form our self-image on, and we have either a place of where we have been traumatized or have been hurt or have disease, even in the physical body now because of them, or we have a place of privilege. So, and my love, she was dropping some wisdom on me earlier today, my lady Kirti, she was saying that those things that we have a privilege in, we may lack empathy for others who have that same wound in that same place. In other words, if I have, you know, she being a womb being, having a womb space on this planet, and me being a male gendered being, sometimes I may not be able to empathize with her experience.
Thank you for sharing, brother. Tarek.
Yeah, thank you, Shofar. I was just getting a memory of several times just being like, babe, just say what you ask for, what you want. Like almost like how old are we right now? Just ask for what you want. Like, and I can feel this inner battle and struggle, and like I want to share, but I'm there. And then, you know, once she just opened up, and I'm talking about you, babe. And then it was like, there's this whole like traumatic, like for beings who incarnated into a woman's body, of unsafe to share, unsafe to ask for what we want, unsafe for them to ask for what they want, unsafe for them to be seen in their full power. Like I was watching a Lady Gaga documentary yesterday. Like I'm trying to get inspiration from all biographies, and it took me forever to say yes to that. And I'm like, all right, fuck it, I'm watching it. I'll see you later. And like even she was saying how like when women are in their full power, how like that scares off the men, and it's like, and just having more empathy, Shofar. I was like, I'm going to use this privilege of being in a male body to hold space for others to feel safe. Like this morning I was cuddling her up and I was saying, I want to make sure I create more safety. Like I can't, we don't have, it's our ego that would say, I'm responsible for someone else's feeling safe, but we can create a safe space, right? So just again, with that privilege, like if I was a multi-billionaire, I have a privilege to help out those less fortunate. And I took that for granted because I'm like, hey, you want something, you just speak it. And so just having more empathy for it and just shifting the energy so that it's like pulling back that energy sometimes and just holding space to allow energies, not just my partner, but other. When I'm at events, like it's easy for me to like be like, hey, yeah, my energy, yeah, Aries, blah, 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 rapper. And then it's like, hey, okay, I know who I am. I'm 40 years young now. I don't need to like keep proving things to myself. So it's like, maybe I can pull back and just hold space for others to kind of step up, the ones that are a little bit more like, shyer or just, and with that, I noticed once at an event, all the men were just like pulling back, being like that anchor point. And then, you know, the people that don't normally talk, you know, like, because they felt that safe, like with my partner, because I'm so impatient, I'm like, what do you want? Just say it right now. And now I'm pulling back, and it's so like, it's just, I'm like, it's torture for me, but I'm just like, and like, it's her pace, it's not my pace, it's her pace. And there is this almost like, is it safe for me to share now? And then there's this feeling of, wow, I feel that there's no energy of hurry up, not fast enough, or whatever. And just because of that feeling that there's nothing but sacred, safe space that's just holding and waiting, or not waiting, but just being. And from that energy, then at her own pace, I would love it if you could do this. And it's a lot more work, but whatever it takes to help, help the feminine in us all, I believe.
Beautiful insight. And feeling safe, you know, so safety is key. So many experiences have happened to us in our life where we just feel unsafe. And it's not just like on one or two things, multiple things. Safe to be a sexual being, you know, safe to communicate, safe to interact with someone, safe to ask what we want, you know, and really just calming down the nervous system so it doesn't respond in a way where it's just reactory and just hides. And the best way to do that is what you just did, you know, even though you know how your impulse is to basically want to confront it right now, that you knew that the best way to do it is just take a step back, and it's not about what you want, but providing that safety for your partner to basically experience herself, right?
Yeah. And I love the word that popped up in the thread about parenting, like asking that question, Neil, earlier when you were saying regression. It's like like when those things come up, it's a very good question to ask. Like, and I ask it to my partner sometimes, like, how old are you being now? Not from a judgmental place, but maybe sometimes the sarcasm comes out with that. But really, like, what age is this? Like today, when I asked that question, I was like I'm almost I'm curious, and I'm investigating. I'm like, this feels like a wound of Taru, my inner child, wanting mom, and mom not being there, and feeling like she was distracted, because it was like we were holding hands talking today, and then she stopped holding my hand, and that's all it took for my inner child to go, okay, it's not safe. And then it was just really going to like what age, like what energy, like really sinking deep into the age, the energy, so that it doesn't become about like, you didn't do this, and trying to control the external and blame. It's like, what's underneath all of that? And there's vulnerability, and there's tears, like under all the anger and all that stuff that comes up, there's really like emotions underneath that just want to be acknowledged, heard, and shared, I believe.
Definitely. Shofar, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I love that, Tarek. Yeah, I agree with him as far as that part of, you know, well, all of it, and especially where you were saying there about that is wanting to be heard, and because I and you've heard me say this before, Neil, that the word heart has here in it, and that the word heart has ear in it. And I think that the ancient science, when this angel speak was being put together, this English that we speak, there was a hint being put there that we being able to communicate, both speak from and then also hear from our heart, it would resolve a lot of these different things that we're talking about, that need for safety, and just being naturally more in a safe space, if our actions, if our words were coming from this space in the first place.
Wow. I love that, the heart, the ear. I'm getting a few downloads. Is it okay if I just share them?
Yeah, for sure.
Thank
You
you.
want to,
Thank
this is besides the healing you want to do at the end, right?
Yeah, just real quick.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, it was just like, this is so simple, but just putting my hand on my heart and just going, what do you need, little guy? Like, what do you, I'm here for you. What do you want? What can I provide you, little guy? Like, it's just simple, hand on heart, and just like imagining this little child in me and being like connecting, like literally talking to it like I have a child next to me. And what are you needing in this moment? and then asking for what it needs. And not, you create codependency when every time the child's triggered, then you go to your loved ones or whatever to solve it. They're not responsible to solve it. You're responsible to take care of your little one. But then also there's like the healthy, like I could really use just like a little support now, or, you know what I mean? There's healthy asking for help, and there's unhealthy codependency. And then there's there's always the healthy way and the unhealthy way of doing that. I would love to share an inner child healing activation, and I would love to add to that healing activation boundaries, just as a thank you to you, Neil, for all that you do. And you were saying that you're wanting to step more into that. And then with this whole like going back to like, imagine Adam and Eve, or whoever the first human was created. Like I remember getting this download where it's like this whole I don't know if it's going to be triggering, but it's like we were born supposedly to be workers for these God beings, right? Like you guys heard that before. So it's almost like there's the mindset of conqueror being conquered, the victimizer, victim, the slave, you know, the one that takes advantage of weakness, and you know, it's all in us, and it's in multiple ways, and it's playing out till this day within us, within our cultures, within the world at large. And like, imagine going all the way to we were created to work for God beings. Like obviously that doesn't take away from our essence being divine light and infinite love and infinite consciousness, but like if that is true, then it explains why, you know, the workforce and like this mindset that's like, don't, you know, like we have this like rebel consciousness in us that's like, nah, you know, fuck that, we're gonna take a stand for it. But like I have more empathy now for those that are like, okay, you know, whatever you say. And it's like, where does that really stem from? So maybe we can include a healing to alchemize or shift that DNA that still believes that it's lesser than or subservient to. But yeah, I'm just going to go into it. So if you guys would like to,
you want to close out with this, because I have one more question.
Okay, yeah, I could close out with it. 100%.
Yeah, let's close out with that. I feel it'll be a great way just to funnel this out with actual activation for that. Yeah. So here's my last question. But I wanted to ask first, Shofar, is Kirti around? Does she want to come on and share something? Because the last question I was going to go into was on shame, healing from shame. And I just wanted to just go around really quick and just have your take on shame. And then Tarek, then you take it away after that. We'll do the
Thanks, brother.
Your child healing. So Shofar, what do you think?
I asked her, but let me ask one more time real quick.
Okay.
Hold on.
I know it's not just, you know, I don't want to put her on the spot here, but if she's available.
Here she is.
Hey, Kirti.
Hi. I love this talk today, and I love all these topics, and I just love you three men so much. You're amazing. We need more men like this on the planet. Yes, thank you, more please.
Thank you. And I wanted just to, because our last question is on shame here, you know, and you left some comments in the chat, but, you know, you do some really powerful work as well. So just, are there any thoughts or things that came to your consciousness as we were speaking that you wanted to share and express? And maybe you want to speak about healing from shame, boundaries, whatever you want to share.
Yeah, I think that, you know, the idea around boundaries for myself, what has helped me is I think about burdens. In our culture, this concept of burdensome and feeling burdensome born as a daughter, as a girl, first of all, and then being burdensome to, you know, just have to navigate and get married off somehow and like be marriageable, kind of always felt burdensome to me. And I had shame around making choices outside of that because it was such an expectation. And so when I think about creating boundaries, I think of what are the problems or the burdens that I feel like I'm carrying around. Those are usually the ones that carry the most shame and deserve to become and have boundaries first. And you may think oftentimes that those boundaries are to be made with your partner or your clients or your colleagues or your friends. somehow when we do the embodiment work and we practice so many of the things y'all were talking about today, we eventually always come down to our family, and we come down to our mother, our father, our sister, our brother, and the shame around not being able to be who we fully wanted to be and be seen as the family. That's why within that inner child, we have the wounded child, the orphan child, right? The dependent child, the innocent child, the magical child, the nature child. These are all facets of our childhood that deserved to be nurtured to cultivate healthy kundalini. So where we feel shame is oftentimes where we are not able to be expressed with our creativity, as well as with our sexuality and our sensuality. You know, and those are the places that deserve to create those boundaries right away. To, I like to say no in order to feel what turns you on. Just flip those letters. No and on, they're equal and opposite. It's a great way. So if it doesn't turn me on to do that for you, even with my parents, it's a no. And I want, and I tell, I've been working with my family. This has been the biggest work, is like, the more that you do the work with yourself, you develop the patience with your family members to model that, right? Loving attention and witnessing and caring. And you, okay, they're dumping right now. Like, they might not know the terminology, but if you know it, you can be like, okay, I could just subconsciously hold some space here for them and see them as their little child. And I think holding that space within your family is so powerful, to be able to say, like what you were speaking to earlier, Tarek, is like, yeah, this is that doesn't excite me right now. And I want to make sure to be excited when I'm with you because I love you. And right now I'm tired. And right now I'm dealing with some other stuff. And if they if that flip happens of duty and shame, like, well, this is what, you always do. And it says, yeah, I know. And I'm working on that. I'm hoping we can work on it together. I'm trying to change that dynamic. Would you be willing to work with me on that? And they might push and pull. It's almost like when you try to hug a wounded animal and they just want to claw at you and push you out away from that. And they might do that. But like, I remember Shofar watching him with his mother, which was really beautiful. Jackie, rest in power, passion and peace. But I watched him give her a hug one time, and she wanted to pull away after 3 seconds. And he just grounded down. And then eventually just melted in. I think that's that pericardium piece that we're talking about. Is like, be patient, hold the vision, do the work so you can do the alchemy for the real kiln, which is your family kin. Add love to the kin, get some kiln and alchemize, and you just get to create lots of beautiful, gorgeous experiences. And it ain't easy. Who said it was going to be? Who said that? I don't know. So yeah.
Thank you, Kirti.
Thank you, sister.
Super powerful. I love you guys individually, but I love you guys together so much more. Incredible. So I just appreciate both of you so much. Just a few times that I've had interaction with you guys have just been powerful, and something else keep with me forever. And just that goes to say a lot. The brief interactions have been really powerful for me. So thank you. And it's so interesting that our relationships with our parents and our siblings, we carry out into the rest of the world, and how we interact with everyone. I used to jokingly say we all have mommy daddy issues, and it's like we take that into our relationships. And that's why like doing that work with our parents and creating those boundaries with them can actually reflect to the rest of the world. I had issues talking to another thing I've never told anybody. I had issues talking to Indian men over 50 years old because of my issue talking to my dad.
Wow.
Wow. It's pretty crazy. But in the last couple of years, since he's had Parkinson's, he's, the dopamine serotonin levels peak in Parkinson's. He's become emotional. I saw him crying for the first time. And now it's completely shifted. I'm able to communicate with him, and it's literally reflecting on how I communicate with other men, but namely Indian men 50 and over. It's so trippy how it works. And so, but the more you become aware of this, the more you can actually do that work and, play around with it. And the key is not to judge myself for having those moments where I'm not able to communicate properly. I become a child to people that have the same archetype as he does.
Yeah. I really feel you. My pops has Parkinson's as well. So I'm relating to you right now. And I often find myself being like, damn, it's a trip that like now I can touch him and hold him and he grasps me and he holds on tight. And I'm like, it's crazy that it takes like a degenerative mental illness to have him forget the memories of how he actually has judged me and shaped me my whole life. And now he sees me in complete service and can see me as the human I've always wanted to be seen as. It's taken his brain to literally shut down his own painful memories and wounds. That I think that's really what's happening now to our fathers, is like, our culture, just as much as we've dealt with, we're dealing with the fact that our fathers didn't get to feel expressed and raised by their fathers, and they had absent fathers. I mean, of most Indians, we see our fathers pass away before the mothers. And also there's a thing of the children really bonding with mothers, and the fathers feel very lonely in old age. And this is a big thing about the Parkinson's that I've been doing a lot of research around that. And so I think that it's really deep what you're talking about, because I think that their brain is shutting down the emotional pain of not being able to be heard and seen as children and as men. And we don't know what we don't know and what they haven't told us. You know, we are first generation, and there are so many things we just don't talk about, right? So oftentimes I feel like we're 1 or 2 generations away from what we see is happening in African American communities. In terms of their healing and reclaiming a lot, because there's some disjointedness. Though we had a choice to come to this country, like by no means am I trying to compare our struggle. That is a very different way of arriving here for a lot of African Americans versus Desi folks. However, this feeling like an orphan child in another land, and really your only access to your motherland is what your parents really tell you. Let's keep it real. Or for us Desi Indian people, what the white yoga world has told us is who we are. So yes, I feel that we are dealing with those same shutdown wounds that our fathers had to deal with coming to this country. And we are here to step into our divine masculine and reclaim that. And what you're doing with your work is that you're tapping into the human connection and the human work on this planet.
Thank you. have a huge, a lot of emotion in my heart right now. Like, this whole conversation has really brought up a lot, and I just feel so happy and so amazing to have this conversation with you guys, share it with the world. And Kirti, every time we talk, you heal like an Indian part of me. Seriously.
You too.
I realize I'm not alone. So.
I was thinking this whole time, I was like, we need to have like a Desi chai and chat Zoom meetup, right. Other Desi kids, unicorn Desi kids like ourselves who have been bucking the system. We the fucking real deal Holyfield. We not fucking around. You know what I'm saying? We open the doors for a lot of these young fake ass busters coming through right now. And it's it's time for us to remind everybody who real ones.
Right. Reclaim the truth, and I want to go to Shofar now because we only have a few minutes, but I used to say to my mom in a kind of angry way when I'm like, I'm more Hindu than you are, basically because of all the information I share, and there's so much blind faith, in the culture, in Indian culture. It's so many truths, so many scientific realities, truth of these beings that were visiting our planet, and there's so much blind faith. And when I woke up to all of this, I started looking at my own culture, my own religious texts from completely different perspective. And I was saying that to my mom out of anger, trying to be like, you think I'm not following your ways? I'm the real, And now I've got to a point where I'm not projecting that on her, but it was my anger from it all. But it's just really interesting that when it comes to our specific culture, right? We're reclaiming the wisdom that is in our text and that we were a part of from the beginning, that we've lost, And so it's just beautiful to reclaim that within ourselves.
I really think that's why our souls chose the families who immigrated to this country for that very reason. And I think we're together to bring your wisdom of ancient Kemet and the tree of life and your lineage of this lifetime.
We're in the tree.
Yeah,
I feel that. Shofar, over to you, brother. And I want you to share, and then we're going to close out with Tarek, and then that'll be our show for today. So go ahead, brother.
Okay, well, so much there. I feel like what you were channeling there, Kirti, about, it ties in, and I'm so glad, Neil, that you've gotten a chance to, connect with Master Yao, because that's going to be really powerful for your organization and your group and stuff, to be able to hear his wisdom. But one of the things I know you had said earlier, about how you've done so much work, and you damn, got so much more to go. And but both of you were just speaking to, it makes me feel like something he always says is that, because I was feeling the same way and still sometimes do. He was like, what you're talking about right now is cellular memory. And we have a lot of cells. We have a whole lot of cells, you know, so we have a lot of work to do, both on ourselves and collectively, and to really retake back culture on this planet, you know, because this hybrid thing that passes for culture ain't culture if it ain't cultivating. You know, it's more cult than culture. And you've broke that down before about the word culture and cultivate. And so it's time for us to take back and really bring that real culture back to this planet, back to this plane, that is healing in nature, and that sees the feminine, sees the masculine, and sees the divinity in all of it, and sees the divinity in fucking life. That it is a precious orgasmic thing to even be breathing. Ashe?
Ashe.
Yeah. Thank you, Neil, again. Thank you, Tarek, and thank you, Laura and Jane. You know, thank you all of those who are listening through time and space. We appreciate y'all. It is.
So it is.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you too, man. Tarek, let me just let's have you close it out, but I just want to tell everybody I'm doing my official closing here. We're going to have Tarek just take us out, and we're going to end this show for today. But again, everybody tuning in on the Zoom, unlimited replay access, check it out on YouTube. Also, our podcast, we have 70 episodes on our podcast. We're almost at like 1,000 per podcast. I'm trying to get as many people to really focus on that. If you want to listen to us communicating about these things, tap into the podcast, Portal to Ascension Radio, available on all platforms, and just continue, and just for myself, let's just continue to move forward. We're continuing to do the inner work. It's inevitable. We're getting to this upturning consciousness. All we got to do is just keep following the path and really staying true to ourselves and connecting with each other. And most importantly, with ourselves and who we truly are. That's how we're going to create a beautiful new world. And Tarek, please, brother, whatever you want to share, and then let's get into that inner child healing.
Thank you so much, sister. I don't know, I talk a lot, and I don't know what it was, but when you talked, I just pulled back. I'm like, I don't know if I have anything to say. It's very humbling. It's beautiful to be surrounded by all you beautiful melanated brothers and sisters, and on a soul level, I don't know what it does to me, but I remember being at my favorite open mic in Toronto. I was the only non-fully melanated person there, and I was like, I feel so at home here, so at home. Anyways, so getting a little emotional. Inner child wounds. This post was it was a post, and it really broke it down for me in a beautiful way, where it breaks down the abandonment wounds, the guilt wounds, the trust wounds, the neglect wounds. So I love, the Aries in me wants to always do something with the information, and do an activation so that it's embodied and we're forever changed from it. So if I'm here, I would love to share this infinity healing. So it's a modality I created, and when you say yes, you allow the infinite intelligence and infinite source to do infinite things for you, to activate this within you. And your consent is by saying yes. So we're activating this infinity healing that is coming through us, for us, and it's for our inner child. So if you'd like an infinity healing for your inner child, you can say yes to receive that. Yes. Would you like an infinity healing to heal any abandonment wounds? Yes. Heal anywhere where we feel left out. Yes. To heal any parts of us that fear being left. Yes. Healing any parts of us that are afraid of being alone, codependency, threaten to leave others, and attract emotionally unavailable people. Would you like an infinity healing to clear that? Yes. To clear guilt wounds, feeling sorry all the time, feeling bad all the time, not liking to ask for things, using guilt to manipulate, afraid of setting boundaries, and attracting people who make us feel guilty. Would you like an infinity healing to clear that? Yes. Would you like an infinity healing to clear any and all trust wounds? Clearing any part of us that is afraid to be hurt, that doesn't trust ourselves, that finds ways not to trust others, that feels insecure and needs lots of external validation, that doesn't feel safe, and that attracts people who don't feel safe. Would you like an infinity healing to heal all of that? Yes. And the neglect wound, would you like an infinity healing to clear anywhere where we struggle to let things go, that where we have low self-worth, that where we get angry easily, where we struggle to say no, where we repress our emotions, where we fear being vulnerable, where we attract people who don't appreciate us or make us feel seen. Would you like an infinity healing to heal that wound and fully integrate that beautiful inner child into the wholeness of our being, and to also send that healing all the way back through our ancestral lineage? Thank you to everything and everyone that led to us being here right now, and all future generations, all space, time, and dimensions, all beings, since we're all connected, and also doing that healing for the healthy boundary, the inner warrior, to activate that inner warrior that is comfortable setting strong, healthy boundaries. Would you like that? Yes, to activate that, the healthiest version of the inner warrior. Yes, and to break free from that, the abuser, the abused, the slave master, the haves, have-nots, I just feel like it goes all the way back to like when man was first created to just do the work for these other beings. And yeah, just taking back all our divine power in all space, time, dimensions now and forever into our beings right now, and to break free from those polarized mindsets, and reclaim our infinite sovereignty, freedom, empowerment, and our divine birthright right now in this moment, and clearing anything and everything that found its way into our field that is not of the divine blueprint, and fully anchoring into the ultimate timeline in every heartbeat that is for our highest good and the highest good of all beings. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Thanks, guys.
So it is. Thank you, Tarek, Shofar, Kirti.
Right.
Let's take a moment here before we close out. Thank you so much, everybody. Love you all very, very much. Incredible conversation. I appreciate you guys. Okay. We'll talk soon.
All right. Peace.
Okay.
Blessings, guys.
Bye, everybody.